Thank you, Nehemiah. Yeah, so the recorder was turned on, and then when we do have a discussion time at the end, we'll pause the recorder. So the recording is just for Nehemiah's information he's sharing with us. All right, please take it away.
Yes. Hello, welcome. It'll be good to see you guys, but I know that it is recorded. But welcome. My name is Nehemiah, and I'm from San Diego, California. And I graduated from USC, University of Southern California, in TESOL. And I'm really passionate about oral fluency and working with EFL students. And so let me share my PPT here. And so I'm going to show you the content of today's workshop. And by nature of the workshop, it's going to be a little bit more interactive compared to other presentations. And so feel free to, we're going to create the storyboard together. And so there will be interactive component here. Okay, let's move on here. So yes, developing oral fluency through digital storytelling. And I just want to show here just three things through this 15-minute workshop. I just want to address what is fluency and what do we mean by that? And what is digital storytelling? And secondly, I want to address and also go over how do we use StoryboardThat, which is a online storyboard creator that you can use and utilize in your classroom. And lastly, we're going to talk about how we can incorporate fluency-based practice into this activity. So for the first one, what is fluency? And I hope you guys can, make it interactive. You guys can put it on the chat. But I was just thinking, what do we mean by fluency here? And I think many teachers, instructors, even learners have their own version or their thoughts about what it means to be a fluent or a competent speaker of a language. And yes, right. And the ability when we first talk about fluency, I think these are some things that we can think about. I think a lot of people say the ability, letter A, ability to speak with few pauses and not hindered by anything. And so that's usually what I think many people think about. And but of course, letter B, ability to talk in coherent sentences. It's not just babbling words, and your language produced has to make sense to the listener. So it has to be coherent, it has to be unified. C, the ability to converse in a wide range of contexts. So it's not just being able to talk in buy food at a fast food restaurant, but also talking about other maybe more heavier topics or academic topics as well. And lastly, which is the last definition, which I really want to focus on, and this theme will continue to arise in our presentation, is the ability to speak with ease and automaticity, and also this referring to more of a natural communication flow, as John has put here too. So fluency is being able to, this is the more narrow view of fluency. And so this is some of the sources here at the bottom. All right, so let's go over some digital storytelling. And I think you guys can understand digital storytelling is just pretty much using media, multimedia, to tell stories. And I really like digital storytelling because you can use different platforms, different websites. You could make it high tech, low tech, very flexible. And so I really like that, you can make it interactive. And I think many students find that very traditional communicative activities such as, discussions and role playing, really, they don't really like it sometimes. And so this can be a very interactive, engaging way. And also it could be student-centered. Students have the autonomy to choose whatever they want and also use their creativity. And also it can expand and develop their digital literacy, especially in this COVID times. So I think digital storytelling, I really strongly believe that it provides opportunities for learners to use their target language in meaningful ways so that they can improve and have a good command of the language. So I'm going to introduce StoryboardThat, and there's so many different platforms here. There's Pixton, there's the Webtoon, there's Powtoon, there's so many things. But I'm just going to go over StoryboardThat. And I really like StoryboardThat because it's very easy to use and it's intuitive. And I found that students had a very fast learning curve. For my high school students, I teach ninth graders and 10th graders, high schoolers, and I was teaching literature last semester, even this semester too. And I didn't explain much. I just showed them a few things, and they were able to quickly grasp the interface and how to work things in the StoryboardThat. So I think your students will have a fast learning curve here. And also, it's very affordable, like about $10 per month if you have a single teacher's account. And I'm going to explain that more. And I realized that the reason why I choose StoryboardThat, I think the most another good thing is that it's free. And I use the free version for Pixton, a different storyboard creator, and it costs $25 for the classroom monthly, right? These no students monthly, you can't really add students here, but then the $25 one, classroom monthly, is a bit more expensive compared to StoryboardThat, which is only $10 here monthly. It really depends on the number of your students. So as you add more students, it goes up maybe $1 or $2. Okay. This is just the pricing. You could ask me questions about that. I'm going to skip over that. And just really quickly, I think that the StoryboardThat, the free version, is more than enough, in my opinion. I'm not, as you can tell, I'm not sponsored by StoryboardThat. I did buy pay for the membership, but I found that even if I bought the membership, there wasn't much of a difference. For the free version, you could have 2 storyboards per week. You can make 500 scenes, which is more than enough. But the problem is, or maybe the downfall of that is, there's a watermark on the storyboard, and you're going to see that later, and I'm going to show that to you guys. And you're limited to only one layout, which is either 3 or 6 cells, whereas the premium, you have unlimited layouts. But I think for the biggest thing is just the being able to create multiple cells and layouts. And to be honest, the watermark doesn't, it's okay. There's a way to kind of work around that. But I'll show you guys today. All right. Okay. So today I'm just going to go straight in. I want to give you guys ample time to kind of work with it, tinker with it. And so these are some things, very basic things that we're going to learn through StoryboardThat. So let me just put the link, and I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go off of this PPT, and I'm going to actually guide you guys through the StoryboardThat. Okay, so let me put the link here, and let me see. Yeah, so go ahead and that's my Instagram. Sorry about that. Okay, all right. So the second link, you'll see the StoryboardThat, and let me click on this and exit from here. Alrighty. So I hope you guys follow along, and I think it will be very beneficial if you do. So you can see here, I have the paid version, but if you could make a free version as well. Use the free version. So click on create a storyboard. Okay. And if you do that, okay, here you go. So you could put the title of the storyboard here. So I could say maybe just KOTESOL 2022. Okay, continue. Okay, all right. So very basic thing is, first we want to look at the layout. Okay, right now these are called cells, 1, 2, 3. And so first, what you want to do is look at the layout. Click on the layout here. Okay. Now, I got the paid version, and so that's why I have all the access to the different layouts. But right now, I believe that the free version only has the traditional layout. Yes, is that correct? So if you, I think, but from my opinion, the traditional layout is more than enough for this digital storytelling. The second most important thing you want to change is the add/remove cells. Everyone see that here? add or remove cells. Now, the free version is limited to, I believe, 1x3 or a 3x2, like this. This is a 3x2. Okay, this is a 3x1, right? So you're limited to this, but I think it's okay in my opinion. So let's try a 3x1. Okay, let's press OK. All right. So I first we made the layout here, and what we're going to do is we're going to first create a scene. So if you look up here, you see this heading here: scenes, characters, items, speech bubbles. I'm going to go chronologically here in order and explain to you one by one. So in order to do this, it's not just clicking. In order to choose this scene, you have to drag, click and drag, click, hold and drag here. Everyone see this here? You drag into your cell. That is how you can, put a scene into this first cell. Okay, go ahead and do that here. Is everyone following along, or how's my speed here? Good? Too slow, too fast? Good? Okay, all righty. So this is the scene here. And so if you go here, this is the rotate button. Go to the right, and you could rotate the different scene. You could flip it, you can rotate it left and right, right? Okay. Usually I don't really touch this and then this is layer, and we use layering, so you could put like objects in the front or back, and so we're going to touch this later. Now, if you make sure you click on this scene here, this scene here, and we're going to edit scene. Click on edit. Now, if you edit the scene here, you'll see you could change the time of day to night, or you could make different weather, rains, clear skies. You can even change the color of the skies. Okay, and then after that, after you're satisfied, you could click update scene. Okay. Now let's move on to characters. So follow with me here, the second button here at the top. So again, you want to do the drag and drop. So click on your character. Let's say that let's say that you want to introduce yourself to our KOTESOL. You could put your character here. So make sure you drag and drop. And again, let's go back to the edit pose. Okay, edit pose. And now for the character section, you could change the head. You can change the different expressions, the hair. Also preset poses: crying, happy, speaking. You could change the poses, and also the hair, skin. It's very similar to the scenes, right? So if once you are set, you could do update poses, update pose. Okay. And you could change the hair here as well. Now, I do want to explain this before we move on to items. But here, if you see here, you see the word unlocked. Okay, everyone see this? Okay, unlock. I recommend not to press this until you finish your storyboard, because if you press lock here and you try to edit your character or add speech bubbles, you cannot. So I recommend you to just lock it whenever you want to kind of come back to it later, or you're finished with your project, your storyboard, and then so usually I don't really touch this. Now let's go to filters. Filters also, it's usually for the background, right? So make sure you click on the background. You can use filters, right? You could put grayscale or sepia, or you change the color of the background, the scene. And also, let's go to items. A lot of times, I think the items here are more than enough. There's so much items here, and if you want to, sometimes it's hard to see what's in here, especially if you have an iPad. A lot of students come with iPads in the classroom, so you press this button here, make the image library larger, and you're going to see the image, the window pop up more, and then you close it to make it more smaller. Then you press this button, right? Now, if there's a certain item that you want to find, for example, for me, I love playing tennis. You could go to sports, right? Go to items and then sports. But let's say that you just want to find it quickly. If you press on tennis, click type tennis, okay, enter at this up here. Then you could find your tennis racket, okay, tennis ball. There's sometimes when students use the search button and then they may not find what they need. And for example, cart. Oh wait. For example, wagon. You can't find anything here, but if you put cart, you can find something. Yes, John?
Oh, thanks. There was a question in the chat. Do you want to
Yes.
go as questions are posted, or do you want to
yes, I
answer
will.
the questions later?
I will answer towards the end, but thank you.
Okay,
yes.
I see.
Yes, Lucy, good. I will address those questions at the end. Thank you. Yes, for the question. That's a good question too. So yeah, so sometimes you have to kind of put different synonyms in the search button to find what you're looking for. Now let's go to the speech bubbles. And there's two ways to put text. The speech bubble here, remember the drag and drop, right? All right, with this one, let's say that right now, if you look at my screen here, the speech bubble is not on the side that I want to. I want to put the speech bubble on the right, okay? You could either delete this, right? If you want to delete this, make sure you click this and you see this blue circles here, and then you go to X. You have to press X here, okay? Then that will delete. This button is different. It's like erasing, like we don't really use that, I think, in my opinion. But right, and you click on the right text bubble here. Another way to delete a text bubble is you can press the delete button on your keyboard, not the backspace button. So not the backspace, but then the delete button on your right. If you press the delete button, then you can delete any type of item, speech bubble, or character. Okay. Or if you don't know where that is, you could just press this X button here. Okay, so you could type here, "Hi, my name is Nehemiah," right? So that's mine. I finished my speech bubble here. So you're going to see here, it's the same thing, shapes, there's infographics, there's web, wireframes, and different search you could put if you want to find a specific item quickly. Okay. Let's see here. Another thing that I forgot to share with you is, if you look here at the bottom, you can kind of toggle between the different views of the storyboard, right? This gives more of a bird's eye view. This gives a more closer up view. So make sure you could toggle between that to make it more easier to utilize. Okay. Another thing last thing that I want to talk about as we kind of go over this is let's put another scene. I hope you guys are playing and tinkering with it here. Let's say, remember the drag and drop. Okay. Let's say I want to put a character. But let's say that I want to put a more of a closer up of my character. What you want to do is make sure you have the character selected. Click on, let's see, click on crop. You see this button here? And also if you hover over a button, you sometimes see you can see the, what it does. So here's crop, right? So crop. Now, let's say that I want to crop my face and the upper body here. Okay, let's say that I just want to show my shoes. Okay, so you press OK. The red part is the one that is being cropped. Okay. Oh, whoops! I'm sorry. I get confused a little bit. The other way around. So go back here, edit pose. No, edit pose. Sorry. Go back to crop here. So the other way around. So the cropping is here, okay? So the red part is what you want. Okay, there you go. So you have this here. Now what you can do is you can expand it. Let's say that I really love shoes. And so I want to show off my shoes here. So you could click on stretch to fill. Everyone see this here? Next to the crop button right here. Stretch to fill, click on this. And you're going to see the different proportions, right? You could do proportional, vertical, crop to fill. Let's say that I want to zoom up here. So you could do proportional. Wow, it's much bigger here, right? So that's another way that you could kind of play around with this. And, you can minimize this as well. Right. Or maybe probably a better way here is, let's say that you want to just have, go back to crop. Let's say that I just want to have the upper body. So click, okay, upper body here. Remember the red part is what you're saving, right? You go here at the bottom, and then you just expand yourself here. It kind of makes it seem like that you're closer up, right? So this is another way that you can kind of play around with this. And you could put a speech bubble, or you could put a free form text, right? Now here, you can't really see it, so you could change the color of your text. So you see text color, and you click on white, that might be better. Right? You could change the font size. Okay. I found that a lot of students they pick it up really quickly here, much more quickly than me. So something like this here. Okay, I think I explained the basics, and so right. So a lot of students they can play around with it, put speech bubbles, put signs. They could describe themselves or describe a narrative, an experience, right? So the next step I want to show, and this is a really important step if you have the free version, and it can be it can be kind of confusing, is the save and exit. So once you're finished with it, you want to save and exit. But the thing about the free version is, if you save and exit, there's a watermark that's left. Let me demonstrate it to you guys. Well, actually, let me see here. Let me demonstrate the premium version, because I don't have, because I paid for it. So this one doesn't have the watermark, okay? But if you use the free version, there will be a watermark here, okay? Now, there's buttons here, and it kind of makes it more confusing. But what I do is just click on View All Options here, the second button here, View All Options. So if you press View All Options, this makes it more clear, right? You could edit it, you could go back and edit it, you could copy it, you can make it into a slideshow, right? So you'll download as a slideshow, not download, but let me see, like a temporary slideshow here, okay, on the web browser. You can download it, and you could download it as a high resolution image, and you can, if you do that, let me show you guys what that looks like. Okay, so I downloaded it. Let me share my screen. So this is the premium version. Okay, so this is the downloaded version, the PNG version here. Another thing, let me just share here with you. Go back here. Okay, view all options. Okay, so you could also do a PowerPoint, and I think this is useful too, especially for your students. So click on PowerPoint. Okay, let me show you here the PowerPoint. And then automatically makes a slide. Let me share with my screen. Okay, so KOTESOL 2022, and you have your picture here, right? So this is another handy tool that is provided by StoryboardThat. Let's see here. I think most of the time, if you have the free version, either my students, before I paid for it, I just had students just kind of use, screenshot, or they just use the watermark. I don't think it makes a big deal here. Okay, and you could also print it here as well. Any questions before I move on from here? Let me see. In terms of just the StoryboardThat and using it, I will address like the fluency components and dealing with low proficient students. I'll deal with that. We'll go over it together in a moment. But is there any questions about? Yes. Let's see here. So Poyo, I will share with you later. Yes, John.
Oh, so do you mean questions that are already in the chat, or?
So the question is
What do you think?
that just talks about utilizing StoryboardThat in
Mhm.
terms of like the interface, or I don't know how to create a storyboard, or I don't know how to add more cells, or
Maybe quick question I had, the free
yes.
version, you can create 2 storyboards per week. So do you think that would be like you're working with 2 different groups of students or 2 different classes at one time?
So okay, good question. So for this one, for the free version, you can't. There's no like you don't add the students into your kind of your LMS or anything like that. The students will just have to go to free try now, and then they will have to connect it with their Google account, Gmail account. And once they do that, they can make their free 2 storyboards per week.
I see.
And
Good.
it's more
That's what
than
I
that.
was wondering if
Yes.
you have students do that too, create their own account. So it's not only the teacher's account for everybody. All right.
Yes, yes. The student has their own account too. So actually, when you use the free trial, the free storyboard, free version, you do have to make the account. Yeah, the students will have to do that and connect it. Yes. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'm going to move on because I do have other components I have to share. Okay. Okay, let's go back to my PPT. All right. So we just covered the very basic of how to use StoryboardThat. Okay. Right, the 2 storyboards per week. I figured that actually it's interesting. Even when the students, I noticed that when they use the storyboards, and let's say they make one and it saves into their account, they can make another one. And then let's say that you're finished with your storyboard. You can actually just edit one of the 2 that you made. So in a sense, it's kind of like kind of unlimited. So you can't really save it more than 2. So okay, that's Pixton, another, I think, a big storyboard creator. You can ask me questions about that later. So we did this step by step. Now, this is the thing that I want to address now with the fluency component. How can we incorporate fluency components into this activity? Okay. Now, as we look at just going back to some research, some components for L2 oral fluency, and Rossiter talks about 5 things in order to incorporate fluency into your practice or in an activity. And the first thing is conscious raising task. And if you see here, conscious raising task is just simply having learners notice about key features about fluency. So what you can do is, step 1, you can raise awareness of fluency markers. Okay. And what you can do is, for example, fluency, you could go back here and, right, there's different things, different markers, use of formulaic sequences such as collocations and idioms, phrasal verbs, right? These are all what helps to build fluency among learners. And also the use of discourse markers, right? For example, fillers, conjectures, or and the like. Those are all, firstly, secondly, lastly, right? These are all discourse markers that kind of connect sentences and have a transition between each sentence, right? And so what you can do is raise awareness of it. And one thing that you can do is, since learners are already proficient in their L1 in Korean or whatever their first language is, you could have learners record their own mother tongue, their own language, or they could interview somebody else and record that, and then you can raise awareness of what makes this person fluent, right, in their own native language. Or what you can do is you can watch a video of a native speaker's speech, and you can have a discussion with your students, right? What do they use? What words? Do they pause? Do they not pause? Do they use filler words? Well, like, right? So you want to kind of raise this awareness so that they know that these things exist and that they can use it to their advantage. You could assign form-focused tasks, right? This is exactly what 1 and 2 is. And also you can have a checklist to assess and monitor their fluency. I'm going to show you that here. And so for my students, my ninth graders and 10th graders, I wanted them, for this one, I wanted to raise awareness of filler words. And so I showed them a video about an interview with Ariana Grande, and she uses a lot of filler words. And I just kind of showed them the video, and then I wanted them to discuss with their classmates on what kind of filler words they use. Right? Like, you know what I mean. Right? And also you can maybe address maybe the filler words that Koreans or other language learners, what their mother tongue, their L1, what do they use, right? And so this is, you could show them a video. And also you could also show probably, if you use too much filler words, you may sound not as confident. And so it might impede fluency if you use too much filler words. You could also just have like a poster, this kind of poster I have in my class, poster, or you could give out handouts of discourse markers, firstly, secondly, like, and furthermore, in summary, all of these are discourse markers that you can explicitly teach, raise awareness, and then explicitly teach. And also, fluency checklist is a great idea. If you look here, you can see that you can fill out, I added discourse markers and how many they used, how many they want to use. And I put maybe you have to use at least 3, put formulaic sequences. At this time, I wanted my ninth graders to know that there are discourse markers and formulaic sequences, especially phrasal verbs. And so we were reading a literature, a short story called The Silver Mine. And I wanted them to go over, and while they were reading their literature, the short story, I wanted them to note down every time they find a phrasal verb. And so later they would record themselves and then tell the story using the phrasal verbs or different collocations. Okay. And the one on the right is just a peer evaluation. I'll explain that later. So some components of, we're going back here. Okay, so this is we just covered the, raising awareness of fluency markers, okay? And then later explicitly teaching them. Next, what you want to do is give a topic and let students brainstorm. We could call it pre-task planning. Studies have shown that when students pre-task, their fluency increases. And so, another topic that you can give to your students, especially in an EFL classroom, let's say this is the first day, okay, you just meet your students, and you could have students go on the storyboard and have to introduce themselves to their classmates. What are their likes and dislikes? Another icebreaker that you could have or do is you could ask them, what 3 things would you bring on a deserted island? And you want to make this into a grammar lesson. And so you have the students use the conditional would, right? I would bring my dog, right? And then they could build the storyboard from there. Or for me, when I was teaching 10th grade literature, I asked the students to give a summary, to make a storyboard of chapter 4 of a certain chapter in Animal Farm. The key thing is that you want to make sure to give the checklist before they actually record and they talk, before they tell the story, because it will make it very clear what the expectations, and you want them to use the fluency components, right? You don't want them just to talk, but you want them to use it. So that's why I highly recommend to give them a checklist so that they can see how many they use or what other components that they can use to build their fluency. Okay, that was the checklist. Now, this is an example of one of my students, and this was the first day, and just an introduction. So this is the storyboard that she made, and actually she screenshot this. This was the free version too. And I just asked her a couple of questions. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you like to do? And I told my students not to try not to put words on the storyboard because I wanted them to spontaneously to just share, because this was, for me, it was an informal assessment. I just wanted to see their speaking level and this was the first day. And so I just wanted to see, where their level of speaking. And so this is a great informal assessment that you can do at the first day of class. It's fun, it's engaging, and you can get to know the students personally and also their speaking level. So we covered number 2, you give the topic, raise awareness, number 1, of fluency components. Number 2, give the topic and let students brainstorm. Make sure you give the checklist. And then number 3, have students record and upload on Flipgrid or any LMS. You can put it on Google Classroom as well. You don't have to use Flipgrid. But I found that it's easier to download, for students to download the Flipgrid, the application, on their phones, and then for them to record it, record their storyboard on the computer screen, or they could screenshot it and then as a PNG or a PDF, and then later they open it up and then they can, with their phone, record themselves speaking each cell. I'm going to show you guys how that looks like. Give me just a second here. Yes, the keynote does not work here, so I need to show a different video. Okay, so let me, one student here, let me show you. Okay, so this is the story Silver Mine. And I asked this class to use discourse markers and phrasal verbs. So just go ahead and listen to how it is. I was speaking.
First, King was driving over the four country. King pressed for time, but the coach was mended, so he stopped at this poor country. Second, King goes into the vestry to meet Tester.
Right, and so you can see here that he's trying to process, trying to recall the discourse markers and the collocations. He used press for time, and so he actually used what I wanted him to use, the collocations, from the story. So maybe another example from Animal Farm. I guess everyone is familiar with the story Animal Farm, right? Let me see here. 15 minutes, okay. Let me show this one video. I don't know if I can.
As you can see, the first scene, Snowball and Napoleon send pigeons, which has the instructions of Beast of England and the story of rebellion. And it's sent to...
All right, so this is just Animal Farm, and they were using discourse markers. Okay, so there's some examples there. Let me go back to PPT. How are we doing on time? Oh, 10 minutes, okay. Thank you. Right, so there's different ways. If you can, right, you don't have to use Flipgrid, although Flipgrid is another great way to use, and because this is the Flipgrid, and this is what the students are looking at right here. You're going to see, right, I put the requirements, put at least 3 discourse markers, at least 6 phrasal verbs, try to limit the filler words. And so you're going to see, and the students, I found that students interacted with one another, put comments on each other's video. And so this was a great way to make it interactive. And sometimes I even, after they finish and they record it, with the permission, of course, of a student, I show maybe a certain student's video, and we discuss together what this student did well, maybe something that they can work on, or and so usually kids, the students really like, they're a little bit shy sharing their storyboard, but I think it's a great way for, like, as a model for other students as well. Okay, the video doesn't work, right? So again, this student, too bad I can't share the video here, but this student just screen recorded. So you can see the watermarks here. He just screen recorded, and then he just had his storytelling here. And lastly, after you have students uploaded on an LMS, Google Classroom, or Flipgrid, have students do a self-peer evaluation. And so this is a checklist that I made on the left. And did they pause in appropriate settings? Was the rate of speech smooth? Was it natural? Did they use the markers effectively? And so I just put this was the first one I used. So I just made it very simple: never, sometimes, or always. Or you could put also a numerical graph, or you could put a bar graph, or a line graph, and you could track the progress of the students as you do each of these storyboard storytelling with your students. And so I think it's very helpful to have this evaluation so that you could raise awareness how they're doing as well. Let's see. Last thing that I want to just mention, just a few useful tips as I did this for 2 semesters with my students. Number one, just be flexible. Sometimes students won't bring their laptop or their tablet. And so even though you announce it, sometimes they forget, accidents. And so be flexible. You can make it low tech. You don't need to have a laptop or a tablet to do storytelling. And so just a simple pencil, paper, and then just a recording device. And usually students have phones, right? So just have them draw out the 6 cells or the 3 cells, and then they can record with their phones, or I let them borrow my phone, and then I upload it for them, or something like that. Second thing is, another helpful tip is provide extra support. And I know there was one question: how do you deal with low students' talk time? Right, and so you want to provide scaffolding. And I think some students are shy, especially when they do this activity for the first time. They're unsure. They don't feel confident. And so what you can do is, actually, there's a setting in the StoryboardThat where you can put headings. And so what I did was, for the lower level student, I put headings on top of the story, on top of the cell. For example, as you're narrating the story in the beginning, and then the next cell I put secondly, or next, and then finally. So you could put headings, small headings with keywords of discourse markers, or maybe vocabulary or phrasal verbs that you want the student to use. And so that could provide extra support for low proficient students. Or also you can make it collaborative. You could pair students with varying degree of their level, right? You could pair a lower proficient student with a higher proficient student. And so I'm really a big fan of collaborative working by Kagan. And when I found that there was a difference when students would just make their story by themselves, and when students will make it together in a group and as a group project. Students were more likely to use their target language in class and to negotiate between meanings and talk with their fellow partner as they make their storyboard. And lastly, tip is give students time limit. I noticed that some students might get carried away with the storyboard, and it's really fun and engaging. And, some students are perfectionists and they try to get everything perfect, but just remind them that the focus is for them to speak and to record. And so put a time limit, maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It depends on your learners. Maybe younger learners might need more time, depending on your students. So, or you could also, another way is for students to make the storyboard much quicker, you can make a storyboard template. That's a function in the free version as well, I think. You can just make a template, and then with all the scenes, so you just preset the scenes and the characters, and then have students come onto that link, and then they can just start with the scene already made. So that can make the process much faster and get to the actual focus, which is to speak and to record their narrative. So that's my tips here. Let's see, references, and yes, just my questions or comments. You can check me out on YouTube or Instagram for In Out English. If you have any other comments, you could email me anytime. I'm very open, and I really like discussing about other research, other materials or what you use to help your students in speaking L2 oral fluency. So let me just take questions, and we have 4 minutes here.
Hi, Nehemiah. That was from somebody posted a little bit earlier
Yes.
about the results. And is it okay if could we maybe stop the screen share?
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
great, we're all here in the main session. So what do you think about this question?
Which one was it? Was it?
Oh, I just posted again one more time.
Okay. Yes.
Positive or not so positive responses from students.
Mm-hmm. Especially on how it helped them with their speaking fluency. Yes, so here's the positive, right? Remember, the components of fluency is rehearsal task. We want to automatize, right? Students speaking. And so a great way is to do rehearsal. And then I think storyboard and digital storytelling is by nature, this is a great way to rehearse, because students, when they record their storyboard, I found that many students had to do it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So I think in that sense, it was a really good way for them to practice their fluency. Maybe not so positive response is maybe the images, but in terms of storyboard about their speaking.
Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Nehemiah, could you pause the recording too? And then maybe,
yes, I will.
More of us will join.